Robin Sharma once asked a room full of people when was the last time they truly owned their morning. Not rushed through it. Not surrendered it to a phone. Actually owned it. Welcome to Whispering Pages. If you're here just for the summary, skip to the next chapter. For the rest of us, let's ease in. Tonight, let nothing need you. The day is done, and you've carried it well enough. Science tells us that the mind approaching sleep becomes unusually receptive. What settles in now tends to stay. Tonight's book is The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, published in 2018. It's a guide to owning your mornings so you can own your life. So let's begin. Get comfortable. Close your eyes if you'd like. And let's whisper through this one together. Robin Sharma didn't start out teaching billionaires. He was a litigation lawyer in Canada in his 20s, successful on the outside, quietly miserable on the inside. On the day he burned out completely and walked away from his career, he began the long journey that would eventually make him one of the world's most sought-after leadership advisors and the author of over 15 books. His most famous, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, became a global phenomenon. But the 5 a.m. Club, published in 2018, represents the fullest expression of the philosophy he's been teaching for over 2 decades. The book is structured as a fable. It follows 3 characters: a burnt-out entrepreneur on the edge of despair, a struggling artist searching for meaning, and a mysterious homeless man they meet at a personal development conference who turns out to be a retired billionaire and one of the most successful people alive. This eccentric billionaire, a man named Mr. Riley, whisks the entrepreneur and the artist off to Mauritius, then Rome, then India, revealing over the course of their journey the morning methodology that he credits with everything he has built. The story is deliberately theatrical. Lavish, globe-trotting, sometimes over the top in its enthusiasm. But nested inside the fable is a genuinely rich framework for how to restructure your mornings, and through your mornings, your entire life. The central premise of the book is deceptively simple. The first hour of the day belongs to you, and what you do with it determines everything that follows. Sharma calls this the victory hour. And his argument is that while most people surrender their mornings to their phones, to the news, to the urgent demands of other people's agendas, the world's most creative and productive people have quietly been doing something different. They've been claiming the hours before the world wakes up as sacred time for themselves. The book opens with the entrepreneur at her lowest point. She's built a technology company from a dorm room. She's been celebrated and admired. And then her investors stage a coup, trying to strip her of her ownership stake. She's standing at the edge of something very dark. Then she encounters the homeless man, Mr. Riley, at a conference. He tells her, the quality of your morning determines the quality of your life. And he invites her to come find out what he means. Before we meet the billionaire's methods, the book introduces something Sharma calls the 4 interior empires. These are the 4 dimensions of yourself that you need to develop if you want to perform at your highest level. Sharma's argument is that most people focus entirely on external achievement while neglecting the internal foundations that make excellence possible. The first is mindset. This is your psychology. The beliefs you hold about yourself and the world, the quality of your thinking, your ability to stay positive under pressure. Sharma argues that most people's mindset is shaped unconsciously by the culture around them, by comparison, by fear, by other people's definitions of success. Developing your mindset means becoming intentional about the beliefs you cultivate. The second is Heartset. This is your emotional world, the quality of your inner life, your capacity for love, joy, and genuine connection. Sharma is emphatic that emotional health is not a soft nice to have. It's a performance requirement. People who are carrying unprocessed grief, resentment, or loneliness can't perform at their peak, no matter how disciplined their morning routine. The work of healing your heart is part of the work of becoming excellent. The third is Healthset. This is your physical dimension, the fitness, sleep quality, and nutrition that determine how much energy your body can generate and how long your brain can sustain focused attention. Sharma's point here is that you can't build an empire on a depleted body. Physical vitality is not vanity. It's the engine of everything else. The fourth is Soulset. This is the deepest dimension, your relationship with meaning, with stillness, with something larger than your daily concerns. Sharma argues that the people who sustain greatness over decades are the ones who stay connected to a sense of purpose that transcends any single project or outcome. Without it, even extraordinary success tends to feel hollow. With the four interior empires as the foundation, Sharma then introduces what he calls the 5 a.m. method. And the heart of that method is the victory hour, a 60-minute morning routine divided into 3 equal pockets of 20 minutes each. He calls this the 20-20-20 formula. The first 20 minutes are for movement. Intense physical exercise, sweating, pushing, raising the heart rate. Sharma is precise about why this matters. Vigorous exercise early in the morning triggers the release of a brain protein called BDNF, sometimes called Miracle-Grow for the brain. It accelerates neural connections, sharpens focus, and creates the neurological conditions for high-level cognitive performance. Exercise also triggers a state researchers call transient hypofrontality, a temporary quieting of the prefrontal cortex, the analytical, worrying part of your brain. In this state, the default mode network activates, producing insights, creative connections, and a kind of clarity that's very difficult to access under normal daily pressure. The second 20 minutes are for reflection. Journaling, meditation, prayer, some form of quiet inner work that helps you process your emotional world, reconnect with your deepest values, and set deliberate intentions for the day ahead. This pocket is specifically designed to develop your Heartset and Soulset. Sharma calls the practice of reflecting on your values each morning before the day begins a form of residual wisdom. The clarity you establish in stillness tends to carry forward, coloring how you respond to the challenges of the hours that follow. The third 20 minutes are for growth. Reading, listening to something educational, reviewing notes or lessons that move your thinking forward. Sharma argues that over the course of a year, this single daily habit compounds into a significant competitive advantage. While most people start their days by consuming news or social media, information that rarely makes them better at anything that matters, the person running the 20-20-20 formula is quietly accumulating knowledge that sharpens their craft and deepens their wisdom. Now, the obvious question is, why 5 in the morning? Sharma's answer is both practical and philosophical. Practically, the early morning hours before the world activates are the most distraction-free time of day. There are no emails arriving, no phone calls, no one needing anything from you. You have the world to yourself. And Sharma argues that this uninterrupted solitude is precisely the condition that allows for deep work, deep reflection, and real inner development. Philosophically, Sharma is making a claim about ownership. When you rise before the rest of the world and spend the first hour entirely on your own growth, you are communicating something to your subconscious. You are saying, my development is my first priority, not my inbox, not other people's emergencies. Meh. Sharma calls this winning your morning, and argues that people who win their mornings consistently tend to win their days. And the people who win enough days, win their lives. The book introduces something it calls Capitalization IQ. This is built on a concept from psychologist James Flynn, the idea that what separates legendary performers from merely talented ones isn't the amount of raw natural ability they were born with. It's the percentage of their potential they actually develop and capitalize on. Sharma's argument is that most people are walking around with enormous unrealized potential, not because they lack the gifts, but because they never built the morning habits that would allow those gifts to compound. 5 a.m. becomes the time when you do the daily work of capitalizing on what you have. The book then addresses the most common objection to any early morning routine. How do you actually build the habit when it feels impossible in the first weeks? Sharma introduces the habit installation protocol. He draws on research suggesting it takes a minimum of 66 days, not the often cited 21, to genuinely hardwire a new behavior. And he frames that 66-day journey in 3 distinct stages. The first stage he calls destruction. This is days 1 through 22. It feels terrible. You're tired, resistant, cranky. You want to quit. Sharma is emphatic. This is not a sign that something is wrong. This is the sign that real change is happening. He uses the image of the space shuttle. It burns more fuel in the first 60 seconds after liftoff than it uses during the entire orbit around the Earth, because breaking free from gravity requires enormous energy. The same is true of breaking free from your old habits. The difficulty of the early weeks isn't a problem. It's the cost of escape velocity. The second stage is called installation. This is days 23 through 46. The habit begins to feel less like a fight and more like a routine. You still have hard mornings, but you have good ones too. The neural pathways are forming. The practice is becoming part of who you are rather than something you're trying to force yourself to do. The third stage is integration. Days 47 through 66. The habit has become almost automatic. Waking at 5 no longer requires willpower in the same way that brushing your teeth doesn't require willpower. The victory hour has been encoded into your identity. Sharma writes that at this point, the question reverses itself. It becomes harder to not do the routine than to do it. The book spends a significant portion on the 10 tactics of lifelong genius, a set of daily and weekly habits that amplify the impact of the victory hour. A few deserve special attention. The first is what Sharma calls the tight bubble of total focus. This is the practice of protecting your 5 most valuable assets: mental focus, physical energy, personal willpower, original talent, and daily time, from anything that would drain them. He's talking specifically about digital distraction. Sharma argues that the average person in the modern world has become addicted to interruption. Notifications, news feeds, social media, these aren't neutral tools. They're scientifically engineered to capture and hold attention, and they do it at the cost of the deep focus required for excellent creative work. The tight bubble means building a daily period of genuine solitude, free from all of it, inside which your best thinking and best work can actually happen. The second is the 90-91 rule. For 90 days, spend the first 90 minutes of your workday on the single most important project you are working on. Just one project. No switching. No checking messages. Just focused, uninterrupted work on the thing that matters most. Sharma argues that most professionals spend their best cognitive hours on their lowest value activities: email, meetings, reactive tasks. The 90-91 rule flips this. You bring your freshest, sharpest mind to your most important work every single day. The compounding effect over a year is dramatic. The third is the 60-10 method, alternating 60 minutes of intense deep work with 10 minutes of deliberate recovery. This mirrors what sports scientists call periodization, the understanding that sustained elite performance requires cycling between intense effort and genuine rest. You don't build strength by lifting weights continuously. You build it through the combination of exertion and recovery. The same is true of cognitive performance. Sharma also addresses something many productivity books overlook: sleep. He calls it the foundation that everything else rests on, and devotes a full chapter to the science and practice of protecting it. The book explains that during sleep, neurons shrink by 60% as cerebrospinal fluid washes through the brain, a kind of nightly deep clean that removes waste products, including the proteins associated with neurological deterioration. This cleansing mechanism only functions during sleep. It cannot be hacked, compressed, or substituted. The sleep chapter also addresses the night before preparation that makes early rising possible. Sharma recommends what he calls a digital sunset, turning off all screens at least 90 minutes before sleep. The blue light emitted by devices suppresses melatonin, the hormone that regulates the body's readiness for sleep. Without it, sleep comes later, sleep quality degrades, and waking at 5 becomes genuinely difficult rather than simply a matter of habit. The companion concept to the victory hour is what Sharma calls the twin cycles of elite performance. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive and practically useful idea in the entire book. Sharma's observation is that most high performers in the modern world are operating in a state of chronic depletion. They work intensely and continuously, treating rest as laziness rather than as a necessary part of performance. And eventually, they burn out, or produce work that falls far short of what they are actually capable of. The twin cycles model says something different. Elite performance is not linear. It's rhythmic. It pulses between what Sharma calls high excellence cycles, periods of intense focused output, and deep refueling cycles, genuine periods of rest, recovery, and renewal. He frames it with an equation: pressure times refueling equals growth plus endurance. The pressure is necessary. The refueling is equally necessary. Without both, you don't grow, you erode. This has practical implications for how you structure not just your days but your weeks, months, and years. After a period of intense creative output, you need a period of genuine rest, not a vacation where you check your emails from the beach, but actual recovery. The best performers in any field understand this intuitively. The best athletes don't train at maximum intensity every day. They build recovery into their schedules as deliberately as they build training. So where does this book sit in the larger landscape of personal development literature? The most obvious comparison is to Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning, published in 2012. Elrod popularized the concept of a structured early morning routine through his own story of recovery after a near-fatal car accident. His book is practical, warm, and enormously influential. The 5 a.m. Club covers similar territory but goes deeper into the neuroscience behind each practice and adds the philosophical and spiritual dimension, the 4 interior empires, that The Miracle Morning doesn't fully address. If you want the research behind why morning routines work and a richer framework for what to fill them with, Sharma's book offers more. Another useful comparison is James Clear's Atomic Habits, where Clear focuses on the mechanics of habit formation: the cue, craving, response, reward cycle, Sharma focuses on why the habits of the morning, specifically, are so powerful. The two books are genuinely complementary. Atomic Habits gives you the architecture of behavior change. The 5 a.m. Club gives you a specific morning system to install using those principles. Clear's book fills the gap on the practical neuroscience of habit loops, which Sharma touches on but doesn't go deep on. Now let's be honest about where the 5 a.m. Club has real limitations. The most significant is its audience assumptions. The Victory Hour requires that you have a morning with 60 minutes to spare before the world needs you. That's not true for everyone. Parents of young children, people working multiple jobs, people whose work schedules don't begin until evening. For significant portions of the population, the logistics of 5 a.m. simply don't fit. Sharma acknowledges this briefly but doesn't really grapple with it. The book speaks most powerfully to people who already have some degree of schedule flexibility. There's also an aesthetic that won't work for everyone. The fable format, the billionaire with his eccentricities, the globe-trotting and extravagant settings. This is Robin Sharma writing in his element, which is inspirational, emotionally resonant, and deliberately theatrical. Readers who prefer dry, evidence-based writing may find the style grating. The wisdom is real. The packaging is maximalist. A subtle limitation. The book's spiritual and philosophical tone is genuinely beautiful, but at times it overpromises. The idea that waking at 5 will make you legendary, that this single habit is the gateway to a life of extraordinary impact, is more motivating than it is literally true. The Victory Hour is powerful, but it is not magic. The entrepreneurs, artists, and leaders the book holds up as examples of early rising also had resources, support systems, fortunate circumstances, and decades of accumulated skill. The morning routine amplified what was already there. For someone just beginning, it will help. But it is one practice among many, not a guaranteed elevator to the top. And then there's the question of what the book doesn't address much, the texture of the rest of the day. The 20-20-20 formula ends at 6 in the morning. But what happens after that? The 10 tactics help, but the book is genuinely strongest in its first hour and thinner on the long arc of building an excellent professional life across months and years. These limitations don't undermine the book's core value. They just frame it appropriately. What the 5 a.m. Club gets profoundly right is this: most people are passive about their mornings. They let the day happen to them rather than designing how it begins. They start the day in a reactive state, scrolling before they've had a single thought of their own, and spend the rest of the day trying to recover ground they never had. Sharma's book makes a compelling case that this is a choice, not an inevitability, and that the alternative, claiming the first hour for yourself, investing it in your mind, your body, and your spirit, compounds in ways that are difficult to fully appreciate until you've done it consistently for months. There's also something quietly radical in the book's insistence that excellence is not about grinding harder. It's about becoming more intentional, slowing down to invest in your inner life, protecting recovery with the same seriousness you protect output, building a life that renews rather than depletes you. As you drift towards sleep tonight, here's the one idea worth carrying with you. You already understand something that Robin Sharma spends 300 pages trying to teach. You're listening to this now, in the quiet before sleep, because you believe that small intentional acts, done consistently, without fanfare, compound into something meaningful. The Victory Hour works on exactly the same principle. Not a dramatic transformation overnight, but a daily claim on your own becoming, before the world can claim it first. There's much more in the full book, the remaining 7 of the 10 tactics, the spiritual practices woven through the fable, and the epilogue that shows where each character lands 5 years later, all worth your time. The link to grab a copy is below, and it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Sleep well, and we'll see you at Whispering Pages for the next one.